What's up, guys? JK Disc Golf here, and you guys have probably already seen the world rankings coming out for the beginning of the 2021 season, and I just want to talk a little bit about it, see what you guys think, see what my thoughts are, and really what's going on in the 2021 season. So to start, I just want to I don't want to go through every single player, because one, I may not know a lot to say about them, I might be missing information, but I'm going to point out some notable things, and I'll really kind of talk about the top 10 players, see where I'm thinking about for those guys. So I guess we'll start with the 25 spot. Collin Montgomery actually did win a DGPT Tour event, even though it was ended a little bit short of the rounds. This was the first tournament before COVID shut down. So he did end up winning Waco. So being a 25 spot, I don't think that's a bad thing. I think that he definitely has proved himself to be able to put up great rounds in tournaments. So I think that going in 2021, if he can continue to give himself more up in the rankings for each and every tournament, I could see him being a top 20 guy, maybe even a top 15 guy. But 25, I don't think is a bad spot for him. Going on down to 24, I know I said I want to talk about everyone, but again, I think talking about Ezra is a really good point, because 2021 is going to be what I think his first main season of touring where everyone's going to have his eyes on him. So I think that being in the 24 spot right now, even though he's unsponsored, I think is a great spot to put him in the beginning, but I really won't be surprised if we see him in the top 10, top 15 going later in the season. He's been able to prove himself on drives, absolutely bombing drives. And his step putt, I've said this before, is one of the prettiest step putts in the game. So he has both components of the game. I think the really only thing that we're going to be testing in the 2021 season is his consistency. Can he put it together for 4 to 3 rounds every tournament? Or can he bring his A game from tournament to tournament to tournament? So 2021, we'll see that, but I really have high hopes for Ezra. In the number 20 spot, we have Noah Mestama. I probably butchered the heck out of that, so I'm sorry. But he switched from Innova to DGA. And if you guys don't know, if you are sponsored by DGA, you also get to bag Discraft discs. So a complete new set of discs. I think that going into the 2021 season, he's proved himself to be a competitor on the course. And I think that each and every tournament, he seems to be getting more comfortable. And I think that every tournament that comes, he gets better and better. So again, just one of the bigger things that he's going to work on is that consistency. And I think that he's going to have no problem coming up. Now, the question is, can he kind of revert his whole bag and be comfortable with all those discs? So that's going to be a really good testing point to see if maybe those discs will be better for them or maybe worse. And only time will tell for that factor. But I think Noah has really high hopes for 2021, and I can't wait to see him shred on the course on some lead cards. Number 19 is the self-proclaimed best putter on tour, or at least Circle 2 putt. And if you guys don't know who that is, it's Adam Hammes. He's very, very confident in his skills, which I think is very important. So again, a lot of these guys that are outside the top 10, I think one of the main factors that they just need to practice a little bit more on is consistency. That's what's going to get them from the top 20 spot down to the top 10 spot, because the top 10 players really have that locked into the most part, especially the top 5 players. So I think that if Adam can kind of control his drives, make sure he's staying on the fairway and continues to hit amazing Circle 2 putts, he's going to have no problem climbing up the ranks throughout the season. But it's really that control factor. We see sometimes he gets a little heated on the course, and maybe that affects him, goes a little bit on tilt, but once he's kind of confident in his skills and he's playing the consistent golf I know he can really shred the course. Then going into hole 18, one of my now favorite disc golfers, Kyle Klein. I think this next season will be one of his first seasons touring fully for Discmania, and oh my gosh, this kid absolutely crushed. He's a young gun, one of the crush boys for Discmania, I would say, because he absolutely crushes, but his putt game is just amazing as well. And throughout the 2020 season, he showed that consistency. Tournament and tournament and tournament, he was going on the top 10, top 20 at least, and he was showing that even though he's a young gun on tour, that he has the skills to prove himself each and every tournament, not only with his amazing drives, his amazing putts, but that consistency really shows. And for being how young he is, I know throughout the 2021 season and beyond, that consistency is only going to grow, and I can't wait to see this guy absolutely shredding some worlds. And I know I said worlds because I really believe that he has the skills to become a world champion one day. That might be a bold statement, but I'm sticking with it, so save this video for future. Going into number 16, maybe a little surprise to some. I mentioned some really good players up there, but number 16, Jeremy Coleman. He's been in this game almost longer than anybody else, and he's proven that he has the consistency. But I think as years go on, it kind of slows back on distance, on just kind of putting out his A game. But once he gets that A game going, he is really good on course. And honestly, don't count this guy out. We've seen him actually shred on the 2020 season. Maybe not as much as he has in the past, but I think he still has the skills, and then he's still improving. So don't count Big Jerm out. Number 15 is Drew Gibson. As he's still signed by Infinite Discs, his bag is still completely mixed up. So I don't know if that's going to hurt him or help him for the 2021 season, but I'm kind of really excited to see what he has. If he can get that putt under control and he can consistently hit circle one putts to the best of his ability, I think he's a very much threat. So I think his drive game is almost better than anybody else, but it's just that putt that's holding him a little bit back. So if he can tune that in, honestly, I'd be scared out for him. Now we have James Conrad, and by the time I'm making this video, he is still unsigned. We've speculated that he's going to MVP, but that's nothing confirmed yet. So James Conrad at the number 12 spot, I think that he definitely has the skills to be higher up there. He just has to prove himself. Again, he's going to be stepping away from Innova, where he's been through most of his career. So I don't know if it's going to be a learning curve with his discs, especially if he goes to MVP and he has to try out all these gyroplastic. Hopefully, it's just a smooth sailing. He's kind of at the top of his game where I think that no matter what disc he has, he can lock in a bag and he's going to be solid. But there might be a little struggle along the way, especially as we've seen him be so good with the AVR. Hopefully, a putter can kind of fill that spot for him. But James Conrad at the number 12 spot, I don't think is too bad for him, and I could definitely see him improving throughout the 2021 season. All right, we're at the top 10, and I'm kind of still going to go a little bit fast because I don't want to bore you guys to death, but we're going to kind of rep it through it. Number 10 spot, we have Austin Hannum switching over to Prodigy. Again, we can talk about the learning curve, if that's going to hurt him or help him. And if you guys don't know who Austin Hannum is, I feel like he wasn't really a household name too much, but he kind of really made a name for himself on the skins matches. And if you have Twitter, you really know who he is. But I think that moving to Prodigy could be really good for him. And I think that he's honestly at number 10. I don't think a lot of people would put him at number 10, especially since the guys that we already talked about. Honestly, if I would have went in blind, I would not have put Austin Hannum in the top 10. But looking back at stats, I think he really is deserving of it. And hopefully, throughout the 2021 season with his new sponsor, he can hold on to the number 10 spot or even jump up. Number 9, we have Paul Yuleberry. After the season before, he suffered an ACL tear, and it was awesome to see him bounce back on tour. Not only with his commentating skills, as we've seen him throughout the 2020 season, being on commentary with Big Jim, but he's actually shredded on the course. And he's another one of those sneaky guys where he's not in really the 1 or 2 spot for a lot of tournaments, but he's really up there in the top 10, kind of just sneakily playing really good golf. And if I think he can push to that next level, show a little bit more consistency and kind of just pushing the level, he could really be a top 5 guy. He just really needs to prove himself, work really hard, and I think that he can actually be a number 1 contender for a world championship. Number 8, another guy that I just wouldn't really imagine being a top 10 guy, but when you look back at it and you really think about it, he definitely is. And that's the par 4 king himself. Garrett Gerthy, the beef jerky maniac. He just absolutely shreds. He just throws bombs. Like, I don't understand how he can throw so far. It looks like he's using absolutely no effort. And I think the thing holding him back for being a top 5 or top 3 player is that putt. He has that really high, lofty hyzer putt, or he throws that sonic in, and I feel like it's just not as consistent for him as a lot of the other guys on the top list. And I think the more higher you get up on the list, the more consistent putters you see. So putting really kind of holds people back. So even though Garrett Gerthy can make up a lot of time for that with his drives, if he just kind of nails in that putt a little bit more, he could be a threat on the course. Niko Castro, after switching to Westside, is going to take the number 7 spot in the rankings, and I think it's well-deserved. He showed that he still has the game. Again, a guy who's been in the sport for a very, very long time, still proving that he's got everything left in him. And I think he's the most passionate disc golfer on the course. It might hurt him sometimes, but it definitely does help him at times. So I think it's a guy who strives under pressure. Again, like I said, a lot of these guys, it just comes down to putting. So I think if Niko can kind of work through his struggle, which I think has kind of been a common theme throughout his career, but when he has that putt locked in, he's not missing a putt. So I think if he gets himself a little bit more locked in on that putt and kind of just worries more about his flex game, he has nothing to worry about going into the 2021 season, and hopefully he can win some more tournaments. Number 6 spot, and I don't know if I would put him at the number 6 spot, is Chris Dickerson. Guys, I think he has the most crazy stat in disc golf right now, and I don't know if it's just me or maybe I need to do a little bit more research, but Chris Dickerson has an over 50% win rate in tournaments. So, to me, that's just mind-blowing. Last season, a shortened season, by the way, he won 17 tournaments. Granted, we're talking about some C tiers or whatever, but he won 17 tournaments. And one weekend, he won 3 tournaments. That's just mind-blowing to me. He goes in and out, and like his nickname is Robot Chicken. He seems like a robot on the course. Just dialed in, muscle memory, and like we said, he won the USDGC, was a mistake away from winning the finale, but he's just so good. And every year, I feel like we hear more and more about him. He's the final round king. I think Chris Dickerson is going to be a really big threat on tour in the 2021 season. Maybe we'll see him go out to the West Coast. I think that's one thing also holding him back is he doesn't do a full tour. He stays away from the West Coast, so I think we would actually see a lot more improvement and a lot more name credibility towards Chris Dickerson if he went out to the West Coast and showed the guys over there what's up. Number 5, we have KJ USA, another Prodigy player. And guys, if you haven't kind of seen the theme over here, Prodigy has a lot of good guys coming up. So Prodigy, and I should say Kevin Jones, has proven himself. He won the finale, he won some big tournaments, and he has literally all the skills. When we go to the top 5 players, I think that it's really easy to interchange them because they have the putting, they have the drive, they have the mental game, and more importantly, they have that consistency. And I would put Chris Dickerson in this list as well. I think that he, again, is interchangeable for the top 6 spots. So I think that KJ USA is just a few mistakes away from being the number 1 guy. And again, that's going to stay true to all these guys, but he's kind of proven himself every year that he's kind of the guy to beat. So I think it was last year or the year before that, I think he underperformed with Prodigy, but now he's really stepping into that shoe. It seems that he really understands his disc, and if he can stay up on the tee pad, man, you guys got to watch out for Kevin Jones. Going to number 4, Eagle McMahon. Questionably the best putter on tour. It seems like this guy is just hitting every single putt that's thrown at him. And honestly, it's super fun to watch. And not only that, again, he's one of the farthest throwing guys on tour. So I wouldn't be surprised to see Eagle McMahon pushing that number 1 spot, making runs at so many tournaments. He won back-to-back tournaments last year. So he could definitely prove himself to be able to be a competitor tournament in and tournament out because he's literally just putting up amazing rounds, just kind of pushing the game. Even when he's on second card, we see him pushing and pushing and pushing, and he doesn't give up. It seemed that 2020, he kind of calmed his emotions a little bit more because the year before that, we saw the broken hand. We saw a few blow-ups here and there. But throughout 2020, it seemed that he kind of calmed himself a little bit, which I think is transitioning more into his game where he can stay calm, he can throw the shots that needed to be. Number 3, we have the 2-time world champion, Ricky Wysocki. This guy, if his putt is dialed in, there's no one better than him. It's not even a question. If he's hitting putts, he's hitting every single putt where he can see a chain. So I think if Ricky kind of continues the theme he had through the second half of the 2020 season, and he puts that in 2021 season, game over. Ricky has it. Take it in the bag, because he is just proving that he is one of the best, and you can't count this guy out. It doesn't matter how many strokes he's going into the lead for the final round, he's going to make a run for the number 1 spot. And I had actually the opportunity to watch him at a tournament last year, and man, it is crazy to see the lines and the putts that he makes. It's just unreal. And like I said, if he's putting good, I don't think that there's anyone else that could beat him. So Ricky Wysocki, hopefully he can continue that in 2021. We might see an absolute show out of Ricky. Going into the number 2 spot could seem a little bit questionable and very much debatable, but we have Paul MacBeth himself, the 5-time world champion. So number 2 is not going to satisfy McBeast. He's going to be pushing for the number 1 spot throughout the whole season, and I'd be lying if I wouldn't be surprised if he took the number 1 spot, because that's just what he does. I can see him being able to, throughout the first couple of tournaments, just saying, I'm done with this, I'm done. I want to be number 1, so I will be number 1. I can totally see that kind of pushing. So if Paul kind of just gets in that right mindset, he eliminates kind of the weird mistakes we were seeing him have through the 2020 season and even a little bit to the 2019 season. If he's back like the 2015 Paul, again, same with Ricky, he might not be able to be beaten because when he is showing that he is the most consistent disc golfer out there, no one can beat him. It's just that simple. He has, I think, undebatably the best skills in the game. If you get Paul 100%, there's no one else that can beat him. And I'm saying 100% Ricky wouldn't even be able to beat 100% Paul. That might be a bold take. That might be a hot take, but we've just seen him absolutely dominate. So if we're seeing 2015 remake of Paul, just call it a season. Give him every tournament. Give him that world championship. Because I think he's going to be fighting after not having a world and not being able to prove himself to the point where he wanted to. Guys, you better watch out for him in 2021 or someone may get hurt. Going into the number 1 spot, and I could not be any happier on who it is, Calvin Heimburg. I've said this for a couple years now. Calvin is going to be the guy to dethrone Paul. Calvin has shown that consistency. He has shown he can bomb. He can show that he can putt. He can show that he can do it tournament after tournament after tournament, and it does not matter the weather. We saw him absolutely shred at the USDGC in pouring rain. I think that there's nothing that can get through his skin. He is just so mentally tough out there that when he knows his line, when he knows what he has to do, he goes out there and he does it. He showed that he can win tournaments. He shows that he can putt better than anybody else. And when he is locked in, he is locked in. And I honestly would say if there's anyone that's going to push 100% Paul, it's going to be Calvin. Every year for the past couple of years, we've seen Calvin just step up that level after level after level. And I think he's finally gotten to the point where he's going to be able to prove that he is the number 1 disc golfer in the world. That is such a hot take. Maybe not as hot as I think it is, but if Calvin is the Calvin that we've seen progress year after year, he has what it takes to dethrone the McBeast. So number 1 spot right now is going to Calvin, and I really hope, and I think he can hold on to that spot throughout the 2021 season. Also notably, there's a lot of guys that are left out this 25 spot list. I would say the one guy I really want to mention is Simon Lizotte. We didn't really get to see him at his peak. We didn't get to see him throw sidearms. Hopefully throughout 2021 he gets a little bit better, but I really want to see him out there performing. He is my favorite player after all, so I think it would be awesome to see him go out there and shred. Shred has been my word of the video, but Simon, I think if his arm is healthy, he kind of is another one of those spots. If he has his putt down, he could be a top 10 guy for sure. So those are just a little bit of kind of my thoughts of the ranking, guys. So if you enjoyed this style of video, make sure to drop a like. Already checking in on these guys throughout the season. See if they shipped. See if anything I said was relatively true. But if you guys enjoyed that video, make sure to drop a like. Subscribe if you haven't already. Hit the bell to get notifications on all the new videos. And as always, guys, make sure to keep throwing. Big thanks to everyone who's supported JK Disc Golf over on Patreon. You guys are the reason that this video is possible. If you want to help out JK Disc Golf even more, head over to www.patreon.com/JK Disc Golf or click the link in the description below.